Hello, I am Göran Andersson. In this instruction I will talk about the presumptions for loghouse constructions, about why this is important to learn, something about your work environment, and in the end some words about the tools you need. Building houses in loghouse constructions has been done in Scandinavia for a little more than 1,000 years. The first evidences of log houses are from cities as Oslo, Bergen and Trondheim in Norway and Birka and Sigtuna in Sweden. From about the same age are large-scale archaeological findings in, for example, Staraya Ladoga in western Russia. The method of building with the logs upon each other that are not jointed together in the corners is widespread over the conifer belt on the northern hemisphere. One important prerequisite for log house construction as a building method is long and straight stems of the trees, as we find it in pine and spruce. These are also relatively light sorts of wood, that is about 500 kilograms per cubic meter, compared with oak, that is about 900 kilograms. The loghouse construction method in Scandinavia lays on the principle that the building will be tight and stable through wood meeting wood. That is, the notch is made constructively solid and the logs are laying tight, drawn together to each other. Most historic houses, but not all, are also tightened together with wooden nails. This, that the logs lay tight together upon each other, is the most fundamental principle in the Scandinavian loghouse method. The measures used in the notch, when the marking and drawing of the notch in the lower log and, respectively, mirrored in the upper log, are preliminary measures. When one has cut out the parts according to the drawn lines of the notch in both logs, the upper log is laid back in the right position in these preliminary notches. Thereafter, a tool is used to transfer the form of the logs to each other by marking and drawing. When one has cut out along these markings, the logs can finally be put together. These courses contains both tutorials and lectures. The tutorials show, step by step, how you perform two types of notches that are common in Sweden since the 16th century. The lectures put the practical work into a historical context, mostly from a constructional point of view. Why should one learn how to make log houses? The reason is simple. A large part of our older built environment in Sweden, from the oldest houses from the early 13th century until the first decades of the 20th century, are log house construction. That is, that there are large numbers of log houses on the countryside, especially in the upper 2/3 of the country. But there are not only log houses at the countryside. In our smaller cities, as Mariestad in the picture, older houses are in log construction also, although they are covered with wooden panels or plaster. Thus, there are many log houses that needs to be taken care of in a wise and professional way. Your learning objectives for these courses are, as you can see here. After finished Of course you shall. Perform notches with slanting sides in hewn and round logs to a tight construction. You shall also put these constructions in a historical context. Here you can see the tutorials and my lectures in these courses. Some words about order, security, and your work environment. Be very careful and use scaffoldings and learn about the regulations stated in prescriptions. But this is not only about security, it's also about your work environment. Be nice to your body. You will live with it for the rest of your life. Always see to that you have a good working position when you work with the logs, upon or beside the construction. Be very careful with the tools. They have to be razor sharp in order to function well. Always put them on safe places while you are working. Check for harmful dust or gravel that can worn out the cutting edge very fast. Finally, this is nothing for macho men. We help each other. Wise craftsmen lift heavy things more with their heads and less with their bodies. About your tools. Of course you need a meter, a level and a pencil. For log building you don't need very many tools added to that. And they don't have to be expensive. Buy second hand. Here are some tools that are good to have at hand. It's from the Swedish smithery Gränsforsbruk. Ett golv med intimrade golvåsar och en trossbotten i ett bostadshus där golvet då skulle vara varmt. Then you need a broad axe also with a slightly rounded cutting edge. It must not be as round as this one. A notch axe is a good tool when you are working in the corners in the notch. Here is a special kind of knife for taking away the bark and bigger irregularities on the logs. Finally, you need some sort of tool for the most important moment in the log house construction, the marking of the forms from one log to the other. There are many historic variants of this tool.